Hello everyone and welcome to the Frosty Forest series. In this A to Z Stitch with me, we have 3 parts finished. Part 1, the Racoon Cabin, Part 2, Snowy Reindeer, and Part 8, Snowy Reindeer. We're currently working on Part 7, which is called Snowgirl's Cottage. I'm stitching on 32 count linen, Belfast linen, 2/1. So I will just pause, get you in position, and we'll start stitching some more on the Snowgirl's cottage. And there we're a little bit closer. And I was thinking today, I'm gonna do more on the roof, but I was thinking I wanted to do more on this tree that's over here. Just to do something a little bit differently. And I like to stitch from the top down, and this is now the highest point where there isn't stitches done that should be done, so it's just, you know, nice to do this. And I actually think I want to start a second length of the screen so we can have one for each side of the tree, just because of how it is stitched up. Actually, that's one of the things that I find very interesting with this pattern, is that at least until now, like all the trees that are in the pattern is a different one in each part. Like it's not the same tree used in the different parts. So that's at least that's like one of the small things that I find very interesting, and also makes the pattern more interesting. Like it's not the same tree you're stitching like 9 times in the 9 different parts. There's some variation in all of them, and there's some that are similar or some things that are the same, but I like that they have been able to make this many different tree patterns at all. So yeah, thought I would mention that. I remember a while back there was this pattern that was very popular called the forest screw or something. A lot of people on Floss were stitching that pattern, And it had like a bunch of different trees in the whole pattern. I'm like, I live in Norway. We have a lot of forests, and trees usually look very much the same. So I'm impressed when people can make patterns where the trees doesn't look as much the same all the time. I guess it doesn't help that in Norway, like it's a lot of the same types of tree we have. We have a lot of the evergreen trees, because those trees are usually the ones that can stand harsh winters. And in Norway we have harsh winters, so up against the mountains, mountainsides, like there's a lot of evergreen trees all over. And I have learned to see the difference in all of them. I learned that when I went did study to become a teacher. I had science as one of my curriculums. So I can and I did teach science for a while, and then stuff like that we learned about different trees and different stone types. Like, you will not believe how many different stone types there is, and the different ways they have been made throughout the years. In Norway we have like the stone types are very it's made because of the big blocks of ice that we have had before. Most of them kind of melted and made it in Norway a habitable country. Because Norway did have an ice age once upon a time. It was a country with just some big ice blocks, and some of them actually still exist. Some of them are as big as you can walk a hiking trip over them. So yeah, it's I don't remember what the English name is, but they have throughout the years they have affected how a lot of the stone types we have, what they are and how they are. Because when it started to melt, the ice kind of moved a little bit back and forth, and so it would kind of change how the stones were the components, the composition of the stone and the shapes of them and stuff like that. So we learned a lot about that. And we learned about like how all of the different insects and We had to go and dig for worms to identify different worm species. Because there's a lot of them, if you didn't know. Like, a worm isn't just a worm. Like, you have different kinds. Believe it or not. Same with snails. We had to go and look for snails and gather a bunch of snails, and then we had to identify the different species, and we also did that with mushrooms. And we didn't collect the different tree types, but we did go and look at the different kinds of forest, and we had to identify which tree types in the forest that we could see. And yeah. And seaweeds. We had to identify different kinds of seaweeds, and depending on what type of beach you have is what type of seaweed you can find. Because in Norway, we have, as I said, a lot of mountains, so we actually have rock beach. So that's beaches that are made of, instead of sand, you have a lot of small rocks. And we also have cliff beaches, which is basically a cliff that goes down into the ocean, and that's called a cliff beach. Because beach is actually just a word for where you go from land to water or the sea. So yeah, in those different beaches, I'm not sure if English have another word for exactly that. If beach is just made out of sand, or if it does still contain all of the different types there is. But the word we use for beach in Norway is called strand, and we use that on all types of beaches. So yeah, a lot of stuff I learned that I didn't know beforehand. So at least I can say I learned something when I went to school and university. But that was those years when we had science. Those was the most fun years in university. I love science. Like, I have always loved science as curriculum, and in Norway you have like one big that is biology, chemistry, physics. All of that is like one big curriculum called science, or what would be translated to kind of science. And that has always been my favorite curriculum. And there's so much fun to do. Like, you can go on expeditions, and you can do science projects. So it's also the favorite curriculum that I did teach as a teacher. My students usually loved it, and I loved it. So yeah, So I think that's one of the things I miss most about teaching is like the science part. Like there was so much fun we did. I have to say I'm really glad I made the decision of having 2 strands of green going at once. It just makes the stitching easier. And if you're wondering what I'm doing now, I just do like a what I call half a pin stitch, just to make the floss go a little bit more on the diagonal instead of going straight from here down here. Then you will clearly see the floss on the back underneath these holes, while when I do the half pin stitch, the floss on the back goes diagonally like this, and then it doesn't show through to the front of the pattern. The pattern, front of the fabric. Oh, words today. I have been struggling with words all day today. I'm telling you, it's one of those days for me. I think I'm gonna go and end this floss just because there's not that much left. I'm gonna go a third time. This. And I think I will find a new length, because I'm kind of in the groove. I'll do a few more stitches. Of this tree. I do like how this tree is turning out. So it's a little bit more sparse on the green. The other ones have had like a lot more green on them. So it's so yeah, I liked the more subtle look. there. Then goes right here, the rooftop is gonna come down, so I'm gonna do this stitch, and then I'm gonna do the pin stitch to secure the floss, and then I think I'm just gonna leave it hanging for when this other length of green runs out. I can pick up easily this one and continue stitching with the rest of the tree going down, because then the rest of the tree only have stitches on this side, because here comes the cottage roof and the rest of the house will come down. So yeah, it's secure. I can feel it being. I'm just gonna leave it there. And I was lucky that you're just in frame. I couldn't have stitched much more down. Anyway. Now move over to do a little bit more on the roof, I think. This length, there's not a whole lot left. So I know this is not quite diagonally. I kind of just do a few stitches to end of the length. There's actually more variegation than I thought in this, like, because I can see on the roof that there's some variegation going on, so that's nice. Finish off these. Stitches. Find my snag nabbit. Because there's a little bulk on the white, so I'll just use the snag nabbit to pull it down, whatever it was. Go away, you little green dot. The roof isn't supposed to be green. It's not that kind of cottage. And I don't know if that's a thing in other countries, but in Norway, like, it's a lot of the old cottages have actually grass on the rooftop, and there will often then also be a goat on those rooftop eating grass on the roof. Yep, that's at least a thing in Norway, having grass on the roof. I think it's because it isolates better, so it kind of made it so you didn't need to have a lot of like, if you heated up the cottage, like, it would stay warm longer with the grass on top of the roof. And I think it was a mix of grass and moss that's on the roof. And it's, especially if you're like, the cottage was out in the wilderness, it usually would attract goats that would come and jump up on your roof and eat grass on your roof on the cottage. And the reason I suddenly remember all of these, I don't know, fun facts about Norway mostly, it's because I was asked to co-write a week of prompts in cross stitch and daily 30 group. It's a closed group, so you can only get invited by getting an invitation from somebody that's already a member, and they're not open. They only open up a few times each year for that to happen. So yeah, I had to co-write, and then I'm like, I was like, oh, this is gonna be so difficult. Like, what should I write about? And I'm the same way. Like, if people ask me to talk about Norway, I'm like, I don't know what to say. And then when I just actually sit down and started writing, I'm like, I don't know how I should limit this to only 5 prompts. Like, I could do 100 without any big issues. Like, I could write a whole lot more. So yeah, it's just so funny that suddenly it's like, and then now when I'm sitting, I'm still in that headspace. So I'm kind of just remembering all of the things. And FYI, by the time you see this video, that week of prompts is most likely already has happened, and maybe even finished. Big possibility is has finished. I'm not sure when exactly they're gonna release the prompt. I just know it's gonna be in February. So yeah. Yeah, this video isn't going up until March, I think. So yeah, you know, in your past, you're in my future right now. That sentence, "you're in my future," sounded very like a bad checkup line. People hitting on you. I do like how this roof is turning out, and I do like the doing it on the diagonal this way. It's fun. I'm soon gonna need another length. So yeah, we soon have used 2, or actually 4, since I used 2 lengths. Four strands, 2 lengths of floss. And this roof, and there's at least gonna be 1 more, if not. Big chance there will be even more than that, I guess. Okay, I need to switch needles. Yes, we need to soon do the pin stitch. to find classic no, Gentle Art maple syrup. It's this one. So yeah. I actually saw that this is a while back. This is back in 2021. She started with this needle bug, Karen. You big chance you know her on FlossTube. She has a lot of subscribers, so a lot of people know who she is. She started doing one of her full coverage projects diagonally like this, like the like you would do the basket weave, only instead of doing half stitches, she's doing full cross, and it's the same. It's the same way I'm stitching, only like it's a full coverage project, so you have a lot more colors, but she's basically stitching one row at a time like this, one diagonal row at a time, going down and then up. And I really liked how it looked, so I actually might try to do something similar in the future with a full coverage project. I think that would be really interesting to do, and it's oh, the thing is, like, the interesting thing is always to see if people get a hint of lines, like diagonal. The diagonal, when you do 10 rows at a time going down. Is it row or is it column? Yeah, it's 10 rows wide. You go down diagonally. And in the beginning, a lot of people loved it because you didn't get lines. But then eventually it's like, oh yeah, you get lines with that also. You get diagonal lines showing up. And I have a very tight tension. So that's why I'm always interested to see if lines will show up, because if they do, that will happen to me. I just know it because I have a very tight tension on my stitching. So that's why I kind of made my own way of parking eventually, because all the methods everyone else is using kind of ended up making it so I could see lines if I tried that method. So I had to try something that wasn't restricted to a set number of rows or just a column. Like, I need to be able to not get any not make any lines anywhere, basically. Okay. If I keep going at this, I'm not gonna stop. So I need to stop now. Okay. Thank you all for joining me. I had a great time. I actually are going to put this away for a little while. It won't matter to you because I'm over a month ahead on when the videos is being uploaded every Friday, so you will still see me weekly. But for me, in your past, I'm gonna have to put this away for a little while before I pick it back up again, because I have some other projects that I need to do. And I find that really hard this year. This year, I could have gone totally monogamous. I'm not kidding you. Like, if I didn't have all the challenges I'm doing, if I could just sit and stitch on one project for all the challenges, I would. Every time I'm kind of at a point where I need to put the stitch by project down, I don't want to. I want to keep going. I don't want to put it down. I want to keep going until it's finished. And yeah, that's just not happening. But maybe that's why I get so much stitching done right now, is because I don't want to put anything down. So I try to just do 100 more stitches. Oh, just 200 more stitches. And then I end up like doing 2,000 stitches without me knowing it. And it's like, oh, I did 2,000 stitches. Maybe I should switch now. So yeah. Okay. Thank you all so much for joining me. You will see me next Friday. And have a great weekend and week, and happy stitching. Goodbye.